We're continuing with this article today. Deliverance by blood. And this goes into a little bit of history of Israel. The promises that were made to Israel. And they will see their fulfillment in the upcoming 1,000 years, the next eon. Okay, we would miss much indeed if we did not see in this history a type of God's Lamb and the blood he shed on Golgotha, which is the sole ground of confidence of the ecclesia of the firstborn, Hebrews 12:23. It portrays that later Exodus, as told us, is a treatise called Acts. Once the nation was identified with Moses, the marvelous power was put forth to deliver them from the bondage of Egypt and bring them into the promised land. Now the powers of the impending eon, Hebrews 6:5, are put forth on behalf of the people, not only to indicate deliverance from their enemies, but as a prelude to the coming kingdom. Once the land lay but a short journey across the desert sands, now the kingdom has drawn very near. No long deferred delay is necessary, but even as they spent 40 years in the wilderness for the lack of faith, so now, for 40 years, they tried God's patience by refusing to trust in his prophet, of whom Moses had told them. Deuteronomy 18:15-18. Once a few entered Canaan and brought back some of its goodly fruit. So now they are given a taste of the celestial gratuity. Hebrews 6:4. But alas, the majority never reached the delectable land. All lacked confidence in Yahweh except Caleb and Joshua. So now the nation fails to enter the kingdom because of unbelief. They cling to the law and their own deeds. The majority in both cases never knew deliverance by blood, though surrounded by tokens of his ability to deliver them by his power. If we dwell too long on deliverance by power, it is only to keep it distinct from blood deliverance and to note its contrast. Deliverance by power will come before us again. For us, it is future. Deliverance by blood, however, is our present portion. The treatise on the kingdom of God, called the Acts of the Apostles, will never be fully understood until these two distinct deliverances are perceived. The whole nation of Israel partook of a measure of blessing, even in unbelief. The circumcision epistles, Hebrew, James, Peter, John, and Jude, should be read in this light. How many of God's dear people, sheltered by the blood, have needlessly shuddered under the dark shadows of the 6th and 10th of Romans? They apply to those who had known only a premonitory evidences of a future deliverance by power. They have no bearing on those beneath the blood. Deliverance by power is brought by strength. The blood is a memorial of weakness and suffering. The soul of the flesh is in the blood. Leviticus 17:11. So our sensation is situated in the crimson stream of blood. There is nothing in the actual substance of the blood which has any intrinsic value. The animal slain under the divine ritual did not suffer, it is true, for the blood was poured out, so that sensation fled. But in the great antitype, when God's Son poured out his soul unto death, it was not until after he had suffered that the blood was shed. The blood figures the abiding efficacy of value of his sufferings. Deliverance by power needs no memorial other than its own effects. Deliverance by blood reminds us of the sacrifice. In the tabernacle types, there was an annual repetition of the Day of Atonement or shelter. The victim was slain but once a year, but his blood was efficacious for a 12th month. The crimson spots on the propitiatory preserved all its value for the eyes of God. So with the great antitype, the virtue and value of his death and all its precious fragrance will never cease. Though the actual blood has long been lost. Its figure will remain forever, the memorial of the sufferings, which will deliver the whole creation. They crucified him. Little did they dream that thus their foulest deed would bring them Pharaoh's favor. Little did they know that the physical agony was but the sign of far sorer sufferings, due to his severance from God's face. Yet now the suffering all is past. This fact alone should make our hearts a well of gratitude, not because of what it brings to us, but what it means to him. It's to his glory, all of it. The wormwood and the gall have been displaced by perpetual pleasures of God's right hand. At God's right hand, the sufferings, the darkness, the despair are far beneath our fathoming, and so are the glories also higher than our eyes can reach, though we yet shall see and share them with him. Christ our brother, a sustainable reward for all he did, we never could have offered him. But God has given him a place and a portion which it should be our delight to trace and bid our hearts confirm. His death is past, yet though eons draw upon the resources of his blood, they never will exhaust its potency or drain the wealth it brings to God. Upon his sufferings, upon the blood which speaks of it, reposes this deliverance, rich and rare. But the severance from a doom will merit it. Wondrous as that blessing is but the lower score of a divine harmony. Before touching the higher keys, let us sound these lower notes. Okay, there's more to this article. We'll get into it tomorrow, but have a beautiful Sunday. Grace and peace.